Welcome everyone to this week's Ninja Skill Booster. It's a real pleasure to have you all here with me today. Today's Ninja Skill Booster is about team communication, such an important topic when we're working hybrid, working remotely, teams all over the place. So very important topic. And today I'll be sharing some of the best slides from our Supercharge Your Team Comms workshop to share some of the highlights of that, but make sure I'm also giving you tools and ideas that you can go and put into practice. So once again, welcome. I would like to start by taking a nice deep breath and acknowledging the traditional custodians of our lands. So I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands that we're all joining from today. I'm joining from Darkinjung country in the Central Coast, just north of Sydney. And I'd like to pay my respects to the local people, the Darkinjung people, and their elders past, present, and emerging. So welcome, everyone. Today's Ninja Skill Booster, team communications. Here are my contact details for you. If any of you would like to get in touch after the session, you can get in touch with me personally through email or LinkedIn, or connect with the business through Facebook or Instagram. I don't normally dress as a ninja, so that was definitely worth taking a photo of. Think Productive. For those of you that don't know much about Think Productive, we are a global organization founded by Graham Alcott, who wrote the book, How to Be a Productivity Ninja. And our vision is creating a work revolution where everyone loves Mondays. Now, that's a big call, and I had some resistance when I first started sharing this vision because it seems a bit too big, but a vision should be inspiring. A vision should be something we're working towards, and there's no reason why we can't achieve this with a big dream and good, consistent, solid actions. Everyone that does our full workshops gets a copy of, a digital copy of the Productivity Ninja book and access to our Productivity Ninja Academy with lots of extra resources and things in there. That's our blended learning approach. We have a whole range of workshops. These are just some of our most popular workshops. And as I mentioned today, I'm taking content from Supercharge Your Team Comms, which is a workshop where we run through some of these slides and all the activities in detail to formulate better communication amongst teams and organizations. So that's where the content's coming from today mostly. And welcome again. The purpose of this session today, for those of you that have done our meetings training, you know that we really encourage everyone to start any meeting with a really solid purpose. So the purpose for this session today that I've set is that by the end of the session, you'll feel inspired to improve your team comms and have some tools to help you create clarity and connection. Now, I did have people sharing in the chat some of their purposes, and I think we've got some good consistency with with all of our different purposes today. Today's topics, I'll be going through a lot of information. This is going to be pretty fast paced. So Lisa, who very honestly suggested she doesn't remember anything from training, take lots of notes. Everyone, take lots of notes, but the session's recorded, so you can always come back to the recording. This is what I'll be talking about today, why we need to focus on comms. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. This is really important, especially in the space of digital communication. Building trust through comms. Comms is one of the most effective and important ways for us to build trust amongst our organization, our teams, with our colleagues. Confusion. The world we're in at the moment is very full on. So there's too many tools, too many methods, too many messages coming at us all, and I'm sure you can relate to that. A quick couple of comments on email etiquette, because that's an important part of comms. And I'll be sharing with you how to create your own Ninja Comms Manifesto. Now, wow, can I do that in the next 20 minutes? Yes, I can. So I'll be sharing this with you now, and I welcome any questions or comments in the chat as we go. Let's get into it then. Why do we need to focus on comms? Why is communication so important? Why is this a topic that we really should be stopping and pausing and thinking about every time we press that send button, every time we pick up the phone? And to me, this is one of the most powerful slides in today's workshop. Every piece of comms is a step towards your outcome. Make it count. So every piece of comms, this is as simple as a quick text message, a Teams chat, an email, a full-on meeting, a whole team meeting for a day, that's a piece of comms. You know, whatever it is, every little piece of comms and even every big piece of comms is stepping us towards whatever outcome we're looking for. So this is a really good moment to just let this idea really sink in. And for me, this comes up when I start thinking about even if I'm just flicking a quick text message off to someone, make sure it makes sense. Make sure the autocorrect hasn't put silly words in there. So then we have to go back and fix it again. And I do want to stress here, this is not about needing to be perfect. One of the big aspects of what we do at Think Productive and the whole productivity ninja training is about not needing to be perfect. Human, not superhero. Some of you have heard me talk about before. If we make mistakes, it's okay. Let's not aim for perfection here, but let's just take this moment of mindfulness, this moment to take a breath and pause before we send out all of those comms. So why do we need to focus on comms? Good comms helps people produce their best work. And isn't that really what we're trying to do at work? Good comms helps us because our brains are struggling with technology, with COVID, with stress, the fast pace of life. Our brains are really struggling to keep up. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Another good reason to focus on comms. Hybrid working is bringing up a lot of change. And I've already mentioned the idea of confusion, which I'll come back to shortly. But I do want to mention the lizard brain idea, the amygdala. The amygdala is our reptilian brain. Our lizard brain is getting activated at the moment by constant stress. COVID is causing a lot of constant stress for all of us. Work is often stressful for us. Life is often stressful for us as human beings. So as this lizard brain or this amygdala is getting constantly activated, we're going into fight and flight mode. We're becoming more reactive. We struggle to remember things. So this is why our comms is important, because I'm hearing from so many teams and people that it feels like no one's listening. It feels like no one remembers anything. And if people put the spotlight on themselves, it feels like I'm losing information. It feels like I remember reading that message somewhere, but I can't remember where. This is just our lizard brain. So slowing things down, taking some nice deep breaths, taking care in what we're doing can support us and our teams and our colleagues with just getting some really good clarity in our communication. So good comms builds a lot of trust, and trust is so important. Using the right channel for the right message. So the right channel, like should it be a phone or an email or a Teams chat or a text message? Creating the right tone, and I've got a tool to help you with creating the right tone in our communication. Getting the amount of communication right. This is a tricky one because many people are feeling like they're, with working from home and hybrid working, not as connected, not knowing what's happening in the organization as much. But then often the case is all the information's there, all the information's been sent, often there's too much. But then people are also saying sometimes there's not enough. So yes, I'm being I'm a bit of a swinger here with this one, but it's about just finding the balance, finding that balance. Building trust is so critical in our teams, so critical in our organizations. Now, Boston Consulting Group ran this survey asking about how do you build trust in your organization? Number one was about a good sense of job security, because that, of course, if I have a good sense of job security, I can trust my colleagues, my managers, my company. Number two, interestingly, was about communication. Communication is a critical way of building trust. So that's the key point here, that communication is a critical way of building trust, and trust is so important to our organizational culture, our efficiency, our fun we can have at work. And Alice had mentioned some fun ideas, like putting fun in our work. If we trust each other, we can have a bit more fun. So comms is really like a building block or a stepping stone towards all of this. Now, I mentioned I'd share a tool around creating the right tone. This simple acronym CALM can really help. So I will be sharing some of these key models or slides with you in a follow-up email. And this is one of the tools coming out of our Supercharge Your Team Comms workshop. The calm method, how to create a calm tone. Be clear and concise. So clarity, make sure your message, your communication, whatever it is, clear and concise. People do not want long-winded. People can't handle. It's not just they don't want. People can't. We all can't handle long-winded communication at the moment. Affirm is having this sense of, why are you sending this to this person? Now, in every communication, we don't have to say to the person, you're a member of this team and I value you and this is why I'm sending this to you and you're good at this. But even just reminding that as part of this team, this is the outcome we're looking for and you're going to help us move towards this or something. Just this, sometimes it's just the intention behind it rather than even the words, but acknowledging and respecting the recipient's involvement here. Lead. Be positive. Even if there's an issue, be saying, we can find a solution to this. I'm really having a nightmare here. This is a huge problem, but I know that now we're talking about this, we can work through this together. So leading with positive intent and maximizing the connection to our business culture and values. Remember that stepping stone idea. Every piece of comms is stepping us towards our outcome. So make sure that outcome is in the right direction, aligned with our business culture and values and our overarching goals that we're trying to achieve. When we're thinking about our comms, I love this quote from someone smart. Don't have a proper source for this. We are no longer working from home, we are sleeping in the office. So we run workshops on working from home and hybrid working. And this is one of the big issues that's coming up, is sleeping in the office at home. You know what I mean here. We feel like we're always working. It's really hard to shut down. So we need good methods around this, and we need to respect each other's privacy, I guess, out of office times as well around this sort of concept, so that we can shut down at the end of the day, so that we can switch off. So the better our comms are going out and coming back in, the easier it is to feel on top of things, the easier it is to do that kind of shutdown at the end of the day. So there's all this confusion. I love this word, confusion. Too many channels, too many tools, too much going on. There's so much change happening. We're overloaded with just too much happening. And I'm sure you can relate to this. And we're about to do an activity to help us try and solve this in some way. We're overwhelmed, we're stressed, we're not coping. Now, a bit negative here, but this is what's happening. COVID's making this happen, along with our working from home challenges, homeschooling challenges. The word languishing keeps coming up in the media at the moment. We're languishing. We're kind of just waiting to get through this. So we're overwhelmed. This is a state of life and our world at the moment. And for many of us, we're lacking clarity. We're really starting to forget about, personally and professionally, what are my priorities? Where am I headed? A lot of us are in this Groundhog Day languishing kind of cycle. So this is the confusion. This is good awareness of why it's so important to focus on comms. So I'd love you to have a think. It's a bit of a challenge in a big group like this, webinar format, but I'd love you to put some comments in the chat if you can, please. And just have a think. You don't have to answer all these questions, but I just want you to pause and start thinking about your comms in your work. What's good about your comms at the moment? Maybe put in some positive comments. That's a good place to start. But also, what are some behaviors or approaches to comms that you think or you feel should be eliminated or reduced? And what are the bumps in the road? Where are things getting lost at the moment? Where are things falling through the cracks? So I'll just wait for a minute or so while we get some comments happening in the chat. Whatever comes up for you. Like, as I say, you don't have to answer all these questions. They're just thought-provoking, but I'd love to hear some comments about your world, the state of play in your world at the moment. When we do this in smaller groups, of course, we have do it more in a meeting format, have more verbal communication, but with big groups like this, it's the most efficient way to do it through the chat. Make more phone calls. Yes, great reminder. Thanks, Kristen. make more phone calls. Emails can cause so much backwards and forwards. Don't make email the primary communication. People are drowning. Yes, quick calls on Teams. Thanks, Sonia. So much better than emails. People responding in haste. This is this bit where I love to encourage people just to stop and pause before pressing send, for example. And now I won't read all these out, but there are some great examples here. Receiving the same email from 3 different people. Talk to people checking in. One of the key things is, can we just shut down our email for a while and be more connected with people? Connect as humans. Yeah, and communication is too broad and wide. Yeah, not enough clarity. Who's responsible? Who's doing this? Thank you for those comments. I really appreciate that. What we're finding is all of this communication that's happening is causing a lot of collaboration, and a lot of us think collaboration's a good thing, and it is. Collaboration leads to good outcomes. Collaboration is, you know, multiple brains are better than one, but one of the challenges with constant collaboration is we're not getting enough time for solo work. We're not getting enough time to shuttle that collaboration out and do our thinking and do our work. Most of us are spending too much time in this communication, so we need to be more efficient with this. So how to do this? How to set up your ninja comms. So we have a process that we work through in our Supercharge Your Team Comms workshop, and I'm going to share with you some of the key elements here. We're not going to do all the activities, but I want to share with you the tools. So you can go and do this with your team if you like, because you'll have the tools that you can do this. And of course, if you want us to do it for you, get us to come and run the workshop for you. But I'm going to give you all the tools you need, starting with a comms audit. And we give you a comms cheat sheet to help with that. There's another little acronym, POPP, which is a lovely way of thinking about your comms. So these are a good way to start with setting up your ninja comms. We have a quick conversation about email etiquette today in our Supercharge Your Team Comms workshop. We have a really good conversation about email etiquette and meetings. So let's have a look. And I'll be sending you this slide in a follow-up email. A really good starting point is to do an audit. Get your team together, or even sit down and do this on your own, but getting your team together is good. And look through the different channels and tools. Now, channel and tool can get a bit confusing, so you might just want to use tool. Look through the different tools that you use and just have a conversation around what's it useful for, what are the downsides. It's a really good starting point. It's simple, but until we stop and pause and think about our different tools, then we can start to make some decisions about those tools. But start with an audit. If we're going somewhere, we need to know where we're starting. So this audit gives us a good starting point. Now we provide this comms cheat sheet as well, and I'll send you a copy of this. But it's good to use this after the audit, because otherwise this just kind of answers all the questions for you. We're better off doing the audit first and then getting into this comms cheat sheet. So this will take you through the different tools, the good, the bad, the ugly, we call it, the pros, the cons, and the challenges. So this gets us thinking. So we've done the thinking for you here, but start with the audit so you can really get into your own scenario. We've done a lot of the thinking for you and looked at all this. So we do the comms audit, we use the comms cheat sheet. And then it's a good conversation to have. We won't do this now, but I just wanted to share with you this activity or the discussion to have with your team. Start to look at where are there duplicates, because wherever there's duplicates or where things are being used interchangeably, often we're using Teams chat and email, and there's not a clear delineation of why we should use each one. We might not get rid of one of those tools, but we might need some clarity on what they're for. But there may also be tools that are duplicates. Start to simplify how we communicate with each other. Now, when we're working through this, a good thing to think about every time we're sending a piece of comms. So this is not so much the comms audit, but this is just another little tool to think about every time we're creating our comms. Think about this POPP model. Why are we sending the comms? It's a bit like every meeting should have a purpose. Every piece of comms needs a purpose. What's the reason for it? What's the result I'm looking for? A little bit different to the reason. What's the result or the action? Make sure I'm being really clear with who I'm communicating to, what I want them to do. How important is it? How urgent is it? I know urgency and importance can be split, but to simplify this for our comms and thinking about what tool we're going to use, this is kind of where this is leading to. What tool do I need to select? is how quickly do I need them to see it, and how important is this? And who's the target audience? If it's just going to one person, an email is probably fine. Someone mentioned at the start about multiple teams, multiple people, how to make sure the right message is getting through. If that's the target audience, like the whole business, for example, maybe email's the best format, but maybe it needs some follow-up as well. Maybe another video, or maybe another mention in a town hall or an all hands meeting or something like that. But thinking through this POPP model can really help us get clear on what tool to use and how to use it. All of this is coming back to the ninja characteristic of mindfulness, which is self-awareness, which is thinking, stopping and pausing before we act. When we're doing all of these comms, particularly our Zoom meetings, non-verbal cues are a really important thing to remember. So particularly when we're in our team meetings, our Zoom meetings, etc., making sure that we're sending the right message. If we've got our camera on, make an effort to show people that respect, pretend we're sitting in a room together. So important to think about this. This was part of our Think Productive team, Think Productive Global team, just having a bit of fun. Email etiquette. I'm only sharing a couple of quick ideas here. The first one is the importance of your subject line. This is a game changer for your emails. And if you send emails with good subject lines, you're likely to get back the same subject line. So that can help. Make sure when you're sending an email, you take that time before you press send to pause and think, what's the subject line meant to be? What's this email all about? It becomes a habit. Before you press send, you'll start thinking, is the subject appropriate? Now, if you're using Gmail, you can edit the subject when you're replying. A lot of people don't know how to do this. There's a little drop down arrow there. Contact me if you want help with that. But the subject really should be very clear. This is a bugbear for so many people. I think that's what Jackie's just used your words, Jackie. Thank you. A bugbear is the lack of deliberate subject headings. Yeah, look at that. Thank you, Jackie. Often it's good to write it last, but if it's already been written because it's a reply, once again, before you send that email, jump into that subject and edit it. Have it make sense. Now, digital body language is a big topic that's starting to come up. I'll be honest, I haven't read the book, but I've heard Erica speak on a podcast. So I don't even know Erica, no business relationship, but the way she spoke on this podcast about the importance of our digital body language was quite inspiring and really insightful. So I've bought the book. I just had it in that pile that I haven't read yet. But the podcast was great. And if you're interested in that, grab a copy of that book. Our digital body language is our body language. And as we know, our body language is so important these days. It's always been so important. In our Supercharge Your Team Comms workshop, we talk about meetings because they're a critical part of comms. They're really important. So we do other workshops on meetings, but we bring some of that content in because a meeting is communication, getting that meeting right, going through those processes again. Who's the target audience? What's desired outcome, etc. So making sure we're getting our meetings right is a critical aspect as well. Now, the big activity in that workshop is the creation of the comms manifesto. What I'm going to share with you in the next 2 minutes is how to do that. And as I said, you can go and do it with your team if you like. Do it all in group activities. Start with an activity discussing guiding principles. What are the guiding principles in our comms manifesto? These might link to your organizational culture or your team spirit, team culture. Like, how are we working together? It's like Think Productive. We have trust and kindness are our rocket fuel. Like some statements like this, which set us up for, I don't like to use the word vibe, but what's the vibe or what's the culture we're trying to create here? And then you get into the specifics. So the next activity in the creation of the manifesto is coming back to that comms audit idea, going through each of the tools and setting up some guidelines for each tool. And the guidelines that I recommend are, how are we going to use the tool? What are we using it for? And this is an important one. What are the expected response types? So the reason this is important is it's not about putting pressure on people. It's about giving some guidelines which actually takes pressure off. Often with emails, for example, we can set an expected response time of 12 hours or 24 hours. you know, or same day if it's before midday, next day if it's after midday, whatever we want to put in here. It's about encouraging people to not feel, or giving people permission to not feel they have to be constantly connected to their digital devices, because that's not being productive. And what we're all about at Think Productive is improving productivity to help with people's stress, employee engagement, getting fulfillment from our work and our life. So this is a great activity. You can do this with your team. Of course, we don't have time to do it all today. So, so much to think about there. So I want you to just take 30 seconds now to reflect on, this is a quick workshop, right? We call these express because they are express. Have a think about what you've got out of today's workshop so far. Take a couple of notes. If you can share it in the chat, that'd be lovely, because then we get a bit of a summary coming up in the chat. But what have you got out of today? What can you do for yourself to improve your comms? What can you do to help change the culture in your team, in your organization? But as you can see, often it starts with ourselves. Thanks, Sonia. Absolutely. If everyone can just make sure they're sending it to everyone, if you're comfortable sending it to everyone rather than just hosts and panelists. Thanks, Sonia. Being more mindful of the subject line. Yes. And this is where we start with ourselves in these practices as well. If we get our subject lines right, it starts to improve all the emails floating around. So it's a good thing to think about this. What can we do for ourselves? And then how can we help change the culture? Yes, nice one, Jackie. Thank you, bringing the POPP model back into this. Timelines is important. Thanks, Loudy. Yeah, often we send an email saying, can I have this, please? We don't say when. Stop and pause and review that email before we send it. Beautiful, thank you. Keep these comments coming and everyone can see these. So today's purpose was pretty straightforward and a big promise. I hope that I've achieved this, apart from a typo in here. I apologize. Feel inspired to improve your comms. Remember that stepping stone. Every piece of our comms, everything we put out there, this is not to make us freeze and freak out, but everything we do is that stepping stone to create clarity and connection. So we do a whole range of workshops. I've mentioned these quite a lot during today's session. I'm going to wrap up now, but I'm going to stay on the line if anyone wants to ask any questions in the chat or anything. But please, I would love you to give us some feedback on these sessions. This one in particular today, you can scan this QR code with your phone. I can also put this link in the chat. But please give us some feedback on the session. We love getting your thoughts. We do these to support our community, our Ninja community, and further afield. They're always quick, but we want to make them quick because we don't want to burden people's calendar. Let me put this in the chat for you. Thank you for your lovely comments coming through there. No point putting this in here if there's typos. surveymonkey.com/ninja webinar. There we go. You can click on that link or scan the QR code. And thank you all so much for coming. Thanks, Kristen, for your lovely comment there. I hope these workshops provide good reminders. Thanks, Donna. The Express workshop hopefully gets us set up for a good start to the day. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Have a fantastic day. And please get in touch if we can help you with anything or support you in any way. Thanks, Loudy. Lovely to see you popping up there again. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. I'll stay online if anyone has any questions to put in the chat there.